Here's the start of another ocean project, and this is going to be multiple parts because I'm not even finished with it yet. I started this one with a thin layer of tabletop resin, and I added a little bit of brown pigment. Next, I sprinkled on some sand, but this is not your craft store sand. This is, I went to the beach and I got some sand. So the sand is a lot finer than what you find at the craft store. So it may have looked like I had a seasoning bottle there, and you would be correct, because once that seasoning was all empty, I peeled off the label and I filled that baby with some sand. That made it super easy to sprinkle it right over the resin without having to fiddle with cups or anything like that. I also added some tiny shells here just to add some interest because it is just a big square of ocean, or it will be after a couple of waves. Two of this ocean, and I am adding the first wave. This wave I wanted to be as close to clear as possible, but not exactly clear, so I added barely a drop of the Mix-All No. 9 blue. I really want to layer up this piece, so I'm planning on doing a couple of waves. I haven't done a see-through or translucent wave in a while, so this time I'm trying to keep it a little bit clear, but I am planning to go a little bit darker with the next wave, and maybe even a little darker with the next one. Now for this wave, I think I added a little bit too much white, so it was a little bit harder to push it all out the way I wanted it. You'll see here that I started tipping the piece back to help move that wave down, but what happened was my popsicle stick underneath that was leveling it fell off. At the end of the video, there is a sped up portion of what happened after I blew out this wave. There is some self formation, but you can see that that wave just tips right on back, and that made that white line at the beginning of the wave a lot thicker than I wanted it. The next wave will help cover some of that up. 3 for this ocean piece, and this is the second wave. The last wave I wanted to be clear, and this one I thought I was only going to use the Mix-All for, but I couldn't resist adding a little bit of eye candy pigment Pacific Blue. And by a little bit, I mean a little bit. It adds just a little bit of a shimmer, but also keeps it see-through. I also tried adding some extra white lines with this one, but it all gets blown out and falls right off the end anyway. Now I'm going to be honest, the previous wave and this wave just really didn't turn out the way I thought they would. You know, you get this picture in your head of how it's going to turn out, and sometimes resin just does its own thing. So I will be adding a third wave to this piece. I did tip this wave back again, and if you saw yesterday's video, I made sure to tape my popsicle sticks down so nothing got all out of whack. But fingers crossed for me that this one works out a little bit better with the next wave. I'm going about this wave a little bit differently than I did the last two. If you watched the last two videos, you know that I really didn't love how the first two waves came out. So this time I am skipping the mica powder, using only a liquid pigment, and I am adding a clear line before I add the white for my wave. Adding the clear line should help that white move up and over my blue pigment, giving it an easier time to create cells. I am sticking with the concentrated tip applied to my Wagner heat gun because I feel like it gives me a little bit more control on the airflow. As far as this piece goes, this is going to be the last wave, no matter what it looks like. I don't want this piece to be any heavier than it has to be. Again, I am letting gravity help me here, and I am tipping that piece back to let that wave ease back slowly. After this, I go back in with just a little bit of white to fix some of that line that I just didn't like. Yes, this is a continuation of my ocean piece, but surprise, it's a box, and I wanted to pay some attention to the inside of the box too. I'm going to start by saying I would not do this the way that I did this again. You see, by adding the sand the way that I did, I ended up adding way more sand than I needed, and it ended up being very heavy, or at least way heavier than I wanted it to be. But in any case, we're here now, so let's jazz this up with some shells and some little sparkly bubbles from Win Modern Art. Once that sand layer was cured, I did add one more thin layer of Flag Medium. This covered up any of those shells that were sticking up just a little bit. Here is my finished ocean box. I finished the wood with a little bit of polyurethane and attached the hinges. And it's all done. Let me know what you think.